Welcome to the SowGrow Marketing Council podcast. The SowGrow Marketing Council is a membership organization comprised of growing marketers who want to stay ahead of developments in multiple areas of marketing. This podcast features recordings of SowGrow Marketing Council meetings. Tune in to hear expert marketers share tips and discuss the latest strategies and tools in marketing. To join the next meeting and be part of the discussion yourself, visit SowGrowPR.com. That's SowGrowPR.com and click on the Marketing Council tab. Let's get growing. Today, we are going to have presenters from different areas, and they're going to have about 4 minutes to share a tip. If you guys are watching on LinkedIn Live or YouTube, you guys can put some comments in the chat. And if we have time at the end, we'd be happy to get to those. And we are going to have each presenter introduce themselves. So as you present, just say your name and your company, and that way we know who you are, and then share your tips. So we are so excited today to kick the meeting off with Kriston Sellier. And Kriston, you are welcome to share your tip.
Hello, my name is Kriston Sellier, and I am with ID8. That's www.id8agency.com. And today I'm going to talk about uniformity. So specifically, I'm going to talk about branding when it comes to how you can build your brand. So calling this uniformity because even when it comes down to the uniform or what employees or staff members of a brand wear, that helps to build brand. And you can do that through color. That's one way to do it. If you think of your trips to Home Depot, they're building brand equity through the orange aprons that their employees are wearing. And you can also do it through color combinations, and different colors and color combinations create an emotional response. This particular color chart shows the emotions and feelings that people can have through color combinations. So for example, black, white, and red can evoke anger, and that may not be the proper color palette for a uniform for a company that does daycare, children's daycare. So it's important to consider strongly the colors and the color combinations that a brand is using when they're deciding on the uniform for their employees. And here's an example of consistency in colors. This company, Reflective Apparel, they are utilizing this neon color for their brand materials. And you can see that across the board, their brand looks very consistent because they're using the same color in type or in the uniform or in apparel tags. This company, Spectra, again, is using consistency through brand, and they're doing this through color as well. So they've selected a set of colors, red, silver, black, and white, and they use them consistently, whether it's a t-shirt, murals on the wall, promotions, or mailing, they're using those consistent color palettes. And that's the tip today. To build brand equity, it's important to focus on being uniform and consistent, even in the colors of the clothing that employees wear.
Thank you, Kriston. So we have a minute or two for discussion. So if you guys have questions for Kriston, feel free to ask. And Kriston, I found that graphic that you put up really interesting because a lot of times when we talk about color, we talk about the positives. We talk about, yellow makes you feel happy and purple makes you feel calm or whatever it might be. And then nobody ever really talks about the negative aspect. So it's like people have no concept of, these. I saw like guilty on there and you said anger, and I can't remember what some of the other ones were.
Right.
But you may unknowingly be putting these colors together. And there's some popular sports teams that have these colors that may be on the negative side of things. And so that was really eye-opening for me. Is that something that you came up with, or is that a source that you found somewhere?
It's a source that I found, and that particular color palette is a global color palette. And that's the reason I used it, because a lot of clients have employees across the globe. And so when considering colors to use, red is not always a positive color if your brand is going to be in other countries other than the US. And that data came from qualitative and quantitative researcher out of the UK. So that's where I found that information. And I thought what was fascinating about it was not only the negative, but the combination of colors when choosing multiple colors, how that can influence how people feel about the brand. Yeah. So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. Thoughts or questions for Kriston? It's so interesting. Color is so interesting.
That's interesting about the international aspect. I mean, you don't always think about that, but I mean, obviously you do, but like regular businesses may not be thinking about how, a certain combination might be perceived in, around the world.
Right. Nordson is one of the clients we've worked with, and they have adhesive products, and they're in a blue, like the shape of the container is blue, and it's in a lot of manufacturing plants, like say they're gluing cereal boxes. Blue, fortunately, is a very positive color across the board, and this is an international company, and so they actually they call it the blue box or BB2 to refer to their products, and that works globally. So, it can be a distinguishing factor with a brand as well, as long as you're using a positive color.
So what do you do if it's positive in one country and maybe negative in another country?
You could either change it or the country based on the country, or you can change your colors completely and then have uniformity. It's easier, obviously, if it's the same across the board, but sometimes you do have to change your marketing. What's going to work in Germany may not work in the US, language and what it looks like.
It's a lot to think about when you're limited to a color palette that you're trying to brand around.
Right.
And to think about, does this work in every country? Is this something that's going to be an area where we have to change it somewhere? And if so, how many places we change it? That's a complicated situation.
It is. It's like a big puzzle.
Absolutely. Awesome. Any other thoughts or questions from Kriston or for Kriston?
I think I've heard before too, it's important not to pick like shades that are too, like you need to stay kind of in these shades that'll be easy to reproduce, and like you don't want to go off to strange colors too much,
or use too many. Slack did a redesign, and when they started, I think they had 11 colors, and so it was incredibly hard to reproduce accurately. And when they rebranded their icon, I think it went down to 4 because it was just complex to get it correct. So you're right. Blue is actually a really hard color to reproduce consistently across the board because it can skew purple, it can skew magenta, it can skew green. There's a lot of different directions it can go in. And so it's important to set up that blue, if you're going to use blue, that you have color codes, hex colors, RGB colors, CMYK colors, so that you can maintain consistency however it's produced.
What is the ideal number of colors a company should focus on when they're branding?
I think they should have one primary color and like the main primary color. So I like, to look at Home Depot and Coca-Cola as, very good examples of people who have strong equity. And then all the other colors are more secondary or tertiary, because if you've got a lot of materials to create, you're going to need, let's say 10 colors in your palette, or else it's going to look very rigid and sterile. So adding some of that color allows you to be more flexible. But I say one primary, and then you may have a 2 to 3 colors in your logo set, and then you can expand upon that for your other marketing materials.
That's awesome. We appreciate it. It's always so interesting. I find color so fascinating. It's such a fun topic. So Sherry, would you like to introduce yourself and share your tip today?
Sure. My name is Sherry Wheat. My company is TeleSales. We have been on the phones for 25 years for small businesses that would never go to a call center, but they need a seasoned salesperson talking to prospects, following up with trade show, digital marketing leads, on the phones talking. And we know that many people don't like to do what we do. That's why we've done it for 25 years. But there's a skill to it, there's an art to it, and there's a mindset to it. And in this day and age, when so many businesses are using social media as their way of touching base with their market, or YouTube, or LinkedIn, it doesn't necessarily differentiate you from the crowds. So I get hundreds of emails every day, and nobody, for the most part, calls me. They expect me to go through all of their emails and call them. And that just doesn't happen. So we find that getting on the phones and talking to prospects, talking to strategic alliances, following up on trade show leads, following up on inbound digital leads is something that separates you from the crowd. And in this day and age, that's very important to do. I want to talk about the importance of talking to strategic alliances. And I want to do this. I hate talking about myself, but I'm going to do it today. We're in the process of actually developing packages to help people do what we do so that they can set up their own system and strategies to follow up and to cold call and to follow up on emails and et cetera. And I'm in the in the process of developing these new packages. And I called on one of my strategic alliances is a software company out of Denmark that we've used for 8 years that track all of the dialing that we do. And I called him because he was updating his services. I wanted to find out more. And I also wanted to find out about affiliate programs and referring business to him. And he said, sure, we've got those programs, et cetera. And at the end of the conversation, I just casually said, by the way, we're starting to develop programs and packages for businesses that want to do what we do. They're not going to outsource it. He went nuts. He said, Sherry, we want to become a referral partner for you. We want you on our website. We want you to be part of our blog. We want to add your services to our clientele base as well as what we do, which was a big surprise to me. So there are so many ways that we can support his clientele base. Depending on the size of the companies, we can basically help his clients to qualify and disqualify the databases that they will be calling on and using his software. So my big aha was talk to your strategic alliances regularly and let them know what you're doing and how you're doing and what you're doing differently. So that's my tip for the day.
That's great, Sherry. Thank you. And I'm kind of fascinated about what's going on in the world of telesales because so much in terms of talking on the phone has changed generationally, and the younger generations tend to not even pick up the phone. I've read articles about how it gives them anxiety to even call, or they think something's an emergency because nobody ever calls. Are you finding anything generationally where do you guys call on younger generations, or do you guys tend to call on the older generations? Are you seeing any differences with that or noticing anything with that?
That's a great question. I'm aware of the younger generation, and what I consider to be their needs. But very often we're calling business owners. So we're calling people at the top that are usually middle-aged and older, and many of them have had their businesses for a long time. Or we could be talking to sales division managers in bigger companies. So usually these people have been there for a longer time and they're older. But quite frankly, some of the work that I'm putting together, I'm going to address the fact that the younger generation doesn't like to and don't really know how to talk to others. And there's some very good sequences of how to learn to talk to others and the kind of questions to ask, not just closed questions, but open-ended questions that start with how, what, who, when, where. Tell me more about you. So I think at some point, and I could be wrong about this, the younger generation may have to learn how to speak and how to be less afraid of having conversation. So that's something we're going to be addressing in the packages we're putting together.
So great. That would be such a great training. And I've heard that even etiquette has changed where a lot of times you need to send a text message to tell someone you're going to call them because they're so not used to getting a phone call anymore, and it's just interesting to me how that just causes anxiety for people because you're like, nobody calls, something must be wrong. My phone is ringing. So it's just interesting how things have shifted so much. People will get on YouTube and they'll do YouTube lives and they'll do all these things. They'll get on all these social platforms in front of all these people. And yet it creates anxiety for them to pick up the phone and call someone.
Yeah, it's very different than what we're used to. But I think that at some point they're going to have to learn those skills, and I want to make it fun and easy for them.
Right.
So,
And because nobody's used to it now, the younger
right.
generation, you can stand
Right,
out for sure.
exactly right. One strategy that we do use a lot is we will leave voicemails referring to an email that we just sent or an email we're about to send. And then in that email, we'll provide valuable free information to the prospects that we're touching. So yeah, we use that, and we do get responses back from that. And it could be months later because they save the email, they've got a need. And so they'll come back to us when it's time for them to kick in.
That's a great strategy. That's awesome. Very good. Any other thoughts or questions for Sherry?
Sherry, what's the name of your company? How do we get a hold of you if we'd like to hire you?
Yeah, the name of the company is TeleSales. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, but the business was started in Atlanta. My email is Sherry, SHERRY, at telesalesatlanta.com. And you can call me directly, 404-915-9264.
And she'll answer her phone and not just let it go to voicemail, and you'll talk to her.
Unless it says potential spam, and then I'll let it go. But I'll return the call if there's a voicemail.
That's so great. Awesome. Very good. Thank you, Sherry. Stephanie, would you like to share your tip and introduce your name and your company?
Absolutely. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Stephanie Gustafson, and my company is Digital RevGen. I write the sales story that helps small businesses sell more of their services. So that includes website copy, lead generating documents, and email campaigns, both emails that warm audience up and then nurtures them throughout your sales cycle and turning them from prospects into paying customers and hopefully repeat paying customers. And actually, that's what I'm going to talk about today, because I'm particularly passionate about the email work, which is kind of a good piggyback to what Sherry was talking about, because email is, if you do any research on digital marketing and what has the highest ROI, email is number one at 3,600%. So for every $1 spent, you make $36 back. And it's one of the biggest battles because you open your email box multiple times a day and it's filled with lots of emails. So how do you get your emails open and read to ultimately drive sales? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. The 5 tips for creating emails that your audience will want to read. First of all, send emails that talk about your customer, not you. Focus on what problems they're experiencing and offering a solution to that problem. You want to start to train your audience to know that when they see your name coming up in their email box, that email that we're going to get from you is going to contain valuable information that's going to help them in some way. So you want to start to establish yourself as an authority and an expert. So send content that helps them and helps them solve a problem. The second thing to remember when creating emails is keep it short. Do not make it too lengthy. People don't read content the way they used to. Even a few years ago, everybody is scanning these days. The kind of rule of thumb is about 200 words. But I always tell my clients, both in when they're creating it or content I'm creating for them, play around with it. See how open rates will vary and click-through rates, more importantly, because that's the action we want people to take. Change your length of your emails and see what audiences are responding to. For example, I sent out the last email I sent to my subscribers. I made it much shorter than usual. It was about 110, 115 words compared to my usual 200. My open rate increased 7%. So Always be testing and measuring to see how little changes can improve performance. Third, include a call to action. You are sending that email for a reason. You want your audience to do something. Never miss that opportunity to tell them what it is you want them to do. Because if we don't tell people what to do, they'll do nothing. The call to action can vary. It can include following you on social media, downloading your latest podcast, reading your newest blog, scheduling a call with you, forwarding the email to a colleague, or leaving you a review. But never miss the opportunity to get your audience to take action. Number 4, include a PS at the end of your email. This is an important one. Again, like I said on number 2, keep your email short, which might be a little counterintuitive. If it's so short, why do I need a PS? Because as short as your email might be, people are still only reading it and scanning it. A lot of people just jump to the bottom and look at that PS and look and read what that says. So test and measure, including a PS at the bottom of your email. I had a client who was unsure if the PS was needed in their email. So in a 5 email sequence, we alternated back and forth, including a PS and not including the PS. When we included a PS, our click-through rate increased 70%. Don't forget the PS. And last, it's all about the subject line. Your email may contain the best, most valuable information, but if nobody opens it, then it kind of doesn't help anybody. 30 to 40% of users determine whether they're going to open an email based on the subject line alone. Writing the subject line is an art in itself, and a lot of people make the mistake of they spend so much time on the content, and then as they're going to build their email and their email service provider, they kind of just come up with the subject line on the fly. It is, when I create subject lines, it is a whole process I go to that can take upwards of 20 to 30 minutes. Again, test subject lines. I like to use questions in subject lines. People are more inclined to answer a question when they see a question than just a statement that they may read and forget. And one of my favorite tools is subjectline.com. You can put a subject line in there for an email and it will rate it for you and give alternative suggestions. And those are my 5 tips for creating emails that people will open. And if you want to download the full document that you can share with your team, you can visit my website, www.digitalrevgen.com, and sign up to receive your copy.
That's great, Stephanie. So I'm curious, in terms of the PS, do you do it in every email, or do you do it just occasionally, or alternate to make sure people don't get to where they just, see it so much that they don't use it? Or do you find it works every time?
What I always say is test and measure, see what works for your audience, because what will work for one audience won't work for another. The experts do say always use a PS, but I do like to test and measure in an email and to embed a call to action link in your PS line and then see which CTA button is the one that people are clicking. And that will help answer your question. Is my audience responding to it, or is it not really being of value?
That's great. Thoughts and questions for Stephanie. Email touches all parts of marketing. I feel like it's one of those things as marketers, we all need to know about email.
What are some weak call to actions and strong call to actions? I'd just be curious of some examples.
Yeah. So a weak call to action is anything that is vague, is not clear and direct. A lot of businesses I find try and do it in their brand voice and kind of make it cutesy and clever. That is not the place you want to be cute and clever. You want to be direct. Schedule a call, book a meeting, buy now. Call to actions that let's chat, learn more. Those are a little less vague, and you really want to be as direct as possible in making it very clear. And I would like to add to that point, in an email, list your call to action link multiple times, but just one call to action. Don't have multiple. I sometimes see client emails, whether on their website's homepage or on their emails, they'll have as many as 4 or 5 different call to actions. It's too many. If we don't tell people what to do, they won't do anything. And if we tell them multiple things, they get confused and will also do nothing. So one call to action, learn more, book a meeting, schedule a call, buy now.
That's great, Stephanie. Thoughts and questions for Stephanie? Anything else?
That all just rang so true. I mean, both in, the email marketing that we do and also in the emails that I enjoy in my inbox when I get the long blog style type emails from some people that still send that. Businesses mostly, well, anyway, I won't out any people, but I'm usually like, why? No one, this is too much. And then I actually today saw a really cute one with the PS, and it was like link, topic, PS, and it was very useful. And I naturally went to those, those little pointers as like, okay, that's going to give me the information that I need.
And Stephanie, I was curious because you talked about short emails, have you tested or seen any results with doing really, really minimal text and then linking to a video and having people click out the video to get the information that way? Or are you finding that's not effective?
Again, it is really going to depend on your ideal client and who you're targeting and what the content is of the video, right? And what that particular message. I'm a big believer, always be testing and measuring, because even what worked 3 months ago may not work now. And I had a client of mine who he likes to always do videos. He is almost exclusively doing videos, and his clients like it because he has such a strong presence. But at the same time, you want to mix it up and, have some short form content, because different people, for example, will not click on a video link when people send it. I am not into videos. I'm not a YouTube, TikTok kind of girl. So I want to be able to read. Plus, I'm generally checking emails around people, and I won't play a video because I don't want other people to hear it. So you really need to keep those types of things in mind and what it is you're delivering. In Kriston's space, which is very visual, a video might make a lot of sense. I work with a lot of interior designers where video would make a lot of sense. But if you're trying to explain something or list steps, written content might be easier.
That's helpful, Stephanie. Thank you. Love it. Sarah, would you like to present your tip today?
Yes, absolutely. Let me share my screen. All right. So my name is Sarah Stewart, an account manager and the social media strategist with SowGrow PR. So today I'm just going to be giving some great video content tips. I really liked this screen, I think. Like, how's that one, Stephanie?
Okay, sorry, I'm switching things on you, Sarah. I'm still
That's okay. I think I like this one because I want people to be able to read the slide.
Okay, go for it.
That's
sorry.
Cool. Sure, totally. So video marketing for social media. So obviously video has taken over social media, TikTok, Reels, all that type of, content. People love it. Businesses were making it for different clients and things like that. And it's just a wonderful way to engage your audiences. So short videos are highly effective for digital marketing. They're incredible for engagement. They really capture people's attention. They're exciting, they're creative, they allow a chance for your business to be funny, clever, thoughtful, insightful. They're wonderful for storytelling and humanizing your brand, which really can differentiate you among your competitors. They're versatile. They could be great for B2B, B2C, influencers, nonprofits. Pretty much anyone can make a video, and it can be useful for sharing their message. So shareability, also, it's already digital. It's already on the platform. It's really easy to send that to, friends, share it with their feed, even share across platforms, share in chats, all that type of thing, which makes it more likely to be viral and get higher engagement and higher reach. Conversion rates, you're building loyal fans. People are more likely to follow you if you are sharing, content and videos like that they think is really interesting. If they're following you, they're going to be seeing you more often, and they're going to be more inspired to take action and make a decision about your business. Building trust and credibility. So, videos is a great way people will interact with your brand longer. They'll see your brand in more environments. And there's psychology principle that proximity builds liking. And the more that you're exposed to something, the more that you're going to be comfortable with it, and it's going to gain credibility with your customers. So that can lead to action. Some quick stats about video marketing. Videos are shared 12 times more than text and images combined. Adding video on a website landing page can increase conversion rates by 18%, could be even higher. 98% of viewers watch videos explaining a product or service today when they're doing research and trying to decide and narrow down on the market, which provider they want to go with. Marketers land 66% more qualified leads through video marketing. 62% of search results in Google include videos. So the videos that you put out there on your website, those are going to go on, in perpetuity, whenever people are searching for that business or searching on that topic or, thought leadership or products or services, they're going to see those videos in the results. And that could lead to bringing in a new customer. 84% of people have bought a product after watching a video. So it's a great way to demonstrate the usefulness of your product, the services in the business. So as video links, and I looked this up for 2024, it changes. And obviously, you can vary this. The content, is equally important. So it's not like a hard rule, but these are good standards. Instagram, 30 to 60 seconds, Facebook, 1 to 2 minutes, YouTube, 7 to 15 minutes, TikTok, 15 to 60 seconds, and LinkedIn, 3 to 5 minutes. So here's some content ideas. So people are always looking for, okay, I need to make some videos. What in the world are we going to make videos about? So many, ways that you can be creative here behind the scenes. People want to know about your business. They love, even, something, we have a manufacturing client, and even just going behind the scenes about some of their machinery can be really interesting. They love to meet the leadership in the company and know, who are these people that, I'm doing business with. You can showcase how products are made, office culture, preparing for a big event, leading up to a conference that can help to boost energy around big events and things like that, trade shows. So those are some ideas. Product demos and tutorials, we see those a lot. Those are wonderful for showcasing new products, how-to guides. Educational content is always useful because, people appreciate, and people have needs. Businesses have needs. And so if you're offering something that can help them to run their business better or, meet a need that they have, they're going to appreciate that. They're going to watch it. Day in the life, another about building trust and getting to storytelling, getting to know your business. All an employee or a team for a day, shows sort of what it's like in the business. That would be really interesting. Q&A sessions, hosting live or recorded Q&A sessions where you take customer questions about your business or your products or services or industry topics. Brand history and evolution, tell the story of how the brand came to be, major milestones, how it evolved. This could be a really interesting way to make your brand more human and connect it to the culture or your customers. Webinars like this one. So hosting a webinar is a wonderful way to engage more people and also bring in thought leaders and experts and showcase their services. Product launches, and create a series leading up to a product launch, have sneak peeks, really build that momentum, get people excited. There was another customer that's B2C, and they were getting ready to reopen their business after being closed. And we trickled out on social media, opening soon, opening soon, opening soon. And, that really can build that energy where people are waiting for that big reveal and you get, more excitement. Industry news, run down what's going on in the industry, talk about, major trends. That's always important, especially with the economy, way things are going. People sometimes can, be nervous and they want to know. Another client we have in real estate recently with the changes in commissions, there's been a lot of questions about how that's going to impact home prices and how that's going to impact the home buying process. So, covering those important topics can be really helpful and useful. It also builds trust with the person sharing it. So that's important. User-generated content, always useful to have, compile and share stories, reviews, that, third-party, credentials that are really showcasing that you're a trustworthy business. So those are my tips for today. My name is Sarah Stewart. I'm with SowGrow PR. Does anyone have any questions?
I
I
have
was
a question.
fascinated. Oh, go ahead, Kriston.
Okay, thanks. How do you make the video easy to share? Can you cite examples about how to do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty much like making sure that you have it in a format that meets the parameters, like the portrait format instead of the wide is usually easier to share, not having too large of a size. But usually if you share it on, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, it's already going to be easy to share. But if you have something really long on YouTube, that's going to be harder to share, just because it's going to be a larger size. But most of the social media networks have that worked out. Use the shared capabilities that they have in the platform, and you're more likely to get a larger reach. If you try to bring in something else, or, it's best to work within that platform's parameters. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Sarah, I was surprised by the wide varying of lengths of videos on the different platforms. So does that mean, for example, YouTube was 7+ minutes versus TikTok of 15 to 30 seconds? So does that mean products that require more explanation or demonstration really shouldn't be included on TikTok and they should really focus on YouTube? Or what is dictating what goes where based on video links?
Right. I think you can put a product on any platform, but you just want to know on that platform that typically those links are, what are getting the most reaction from people. The shorter links, you're also going to want to be careful to get that hook in the first couple of seconds so that people are hooked early to watch, a longer link. But something that requires a lot more explanation, you may want to have on the other platforms. With your social media strategy, you can't do everything. Usually, I mean, some people can, or big companies can, but it's good to pick, those platforms that fit with that product or service or business or brand and focus on those. And then you can always take, maybe you have that longer video for more detailed explanation on LinkedIn or YouTube, but then take some cool, more creative, high energy clips, mix it up on TikTok, and do it there as a lead generator to get people. And on TikTok, you'll be more fun and kind of that clever type of thing, but leading into the more serious demonstrations on YouTube or LinkedIn.
Got it. Thanks.
Yep.
I liked where you were talking about a day in the life, and it made me also think about doing a day in the life of your client and showing your client using your product or service. So let's say, you have a packaging company. We've got a client that does packaging, not just showing the company that's our client doing that, but showing how their clients use it. So maybe they're doing boxes for a small company. And so you go into their company and you talk about how they package their products and how they ship them out and how they're growing their business. And you also leverage their audience now, because now your client's client is now going to want to share that. And now there's going to be a potential to get in front of an audience of businesses that may also need that product and service. So it can really expand your reach to be able to, go to that next level as well.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. And I mean, there's another little tip I have at the end of all these tips is I'm regularly using AI in my creative process now. I don't ever sign off on anything AI, but people are like, how do I get creative? How do I, throw some stuff into AI and let it give you a list, pick out the things that you like, and don't be afraid to do that. So it can be really helpful.
That's great. Any other thoughts or questions for Sarah? All right. I'm going to wrap us up with tip today. So my name is Stephanie Richards. And my company is SowGrow Public Relations, and we focus on doing public relations for business-to-business companies. Today, I want to talk about something that comes up a lot, and it's called pay-to-play public relations. So to understand pay-to-play public relations, we need to first talk about what is public relations. And public relations is a marketing discipline, and it uses communication strategies and communication channels to build relationships with the desired audience. And this may include earning media coverage. It may include communicating directly with your audiences via social media or your own marketing channels. That might be your blog. It might be your YouTube channel or email. And it may also be, getting exposure in speaking engagements and events and awards. So that's generally the channels that you have for public relations. In contrast, there's advertising, and that is where you pay to be featured and you pay for exposure somewhere. So this may be that you're purchasing an ad in a publication or on a website. It may be that you're purchasing a spot on a podcast, and you are specifically under the category of paying for that placement, and it's a sponsorship or an ad. So if we come back to what is pay to play PR, it's advertising. There really is no such thing as pay to play PR, because if you are paying for exposure, it really does fall more under the category of advertising. And the lines are becoming blurred a little bit between PR and advertising, in the sense that advertising is actually looking a lot more like PR than what it used to. So advertising used to be a lot more in your face, and it used to be a lot more clear, buy this, buy this, buy this. And now advertising is looking a lot more like an article. It's looking a lot more like educational content, which starts to look like what you would have for public relations. And you can see an example of how a lot of media outlets have done both. They've adopted where they've got a branch of their advertising content that looks like regular journalism, and then they've got their editorial content that's traditional journalism. And you can see this in something like the brand voice articles in Forbes. They look a lot like articles. It looks like a regular contributor, but it's somebody who's paid to be there. And it's got that little indicator that, this is sponsored content. This is content that's been paid for. And so you just have to understand that even though it looks like an educational article or it looks like journalism, the standards for that content are not the same. For content that is paid, like let's say somebody comes to your company and they say, we'll do this interview for you and it'll only cost X number of dollars and we'll promote it for you. If your company wants to do that, that's fine. But you have to understand that people are going to look at that more as an ad and less as earned media. And it doesn't have that third-party credibility where an editor has covered content or a producer has covered content based on journalistic principles and not because they're being paid. So they're very different. You have public relations and you have advertising. Public relations is earned media. It's different where you're not paying for the placement. And advertising, you're paying for the placement. Both are good, and a strong marketing strategy will have both. The benefit to public relations is that you have that third-party credibility and people tend to trust the content more, and it has more credibility. When it comes to the advertising content, there are still benefits because you completely control the message and you control the frequency and you control the consistency. So with public relations, you are dependent upon gatekeeper, like an editor or a producer or an influencer or somebody who is going to want to publish that content or promote that content. Whereas with advertising, you have control over that. And influencers are also an interesting part of this because if it's an unpaid influencer, that has more weight than, let's say, an influencer who has been paid, and people know that. So both are good and they have their place, but it's important to not say, okay, we're doing pay to play PR. We're paying to get this posted here. You just have to understand that it's not going to have the same weight as traditional earned spots where people understand like this has been approved by an editor or a producer, and it tends to have more credibility and more weight. So both are good, but you just have to know what you're getting into. Thoughts or questions about pay to play PR?
I guess when it comes to influencers, I think that's is sometimes a little more blurry in regards to how do I know if they've been compensated or if this is truly just them talking about a particular product or service. I don't know if it's as easy to tell, or are there telltale signs?
It's gotten a lot better because there are now guidelines where if you are being paid for something, social media platforms and platforms like YouTube will require for you to disclose that. So a lot of times you'll see a paid placement. It's usually a little icon that says paid placement. And if you violate those guidelines, you can get kicked off of these platforms. And they're actually pretty strict about it. So that is helpful. I think what's disappearing is a lot of the influencers who are not paid. I think that's a lot harder to find out. And it used to be somebody would just have a platform and, they would recommend certain product or, hey, I read this book or whatever it might be. I feel like so many people have gotten wise to the value of their platform and their audience. And so it seems like if somebody has an audience, they tend to go into that fee-based side of things. And, a lot of times you'll even see on somebody's website, they'll have a media kit if it's an influencer, and they'll have, pricing and things that's available. So it's getting easier to tell for sure.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Your tips were great. The discussion was great. I always learn so much from you guys. So please join us for our next SowGrow Marketing Council meeting. We meet the third Tuesday of every month, and it's at 10 a.m. Eastern. And if you would like to submit a tip and present in the future, go to SowGrowPR.com/submit. So that's SowGrowPR.com/submit. And there you can submit your tips. And that's how we choose our presenters for the next meeting. And the next meeting should be, I believe it's May 21st. Is that right, Sarah? I looked at the calendar. It's May 21st. So definitely sign up. And we appreciate you guys coming today. And we will see everybody next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the SowGrow Marketing Council podcast. Want to be part of our next meeting? Visit SowGrowPR.com. That's SowGrowPR.com and click on the Marketing Council tab to sign up for our next event. Until next time, keep growing.